crazy. Here, make sure we got that sucker in 4K.
What really goes through the mind of
Ah,
someone who truly hates themselves? One
true.
of the most resonant themes of A Silent Voice is self-punishing guilt, the self-loathing kind that made Shoya Ishida want to disappear forever. But what led to that moment is not often understood because it was actually a hidden defense mechanism, one where feeling bad wasn't the problem, but the price. Welcome to Rediscover, where we take a closer look at our favorite anime, and today we're trying to understand our unconscious addiction to pain before it cost us everything. There's something about Shoya's story that feels deeply familiar to me. A few years ago, my friend Steve contracted a rare illness that seriously wrecked his life. Steve was a guy who couldn't live without fun, kinda like Shoya when he was a kid. But when Steve got sick, just getting through each day was an immense struggle because he was constantly in excruciating pain. There was no cure for his illness and he couldn't find a way out.
What I think, like something like that, is a very dramatic shift in life, right? I think people often like structure and routine. So when something as serious as that happens, or you have to say you were, I mean, since we're literally on a beach right now, say you were surfing, you fucking lost an arm to a shark attack or something. Well, that's something that dramatically shifts your lifestyle. And some people, they claw their way back and they get that same life back and they have to, go through a large adjustment period, but they make it back. And other people, they let it destroy the fabric of who they are. And those people are the ones who end up walking the route that I think we're about to go down.
And just like Shoya, he fell into deep depression.
Yep.
Every day, both Steve and Shoya had to answer one simple question: how do I make this pain go away? For Steve, it was a physical pain. For Shoya, it was the emotional pain of guilt and ostracism. But this is where it gets weird. I noticed that in trying to ease their pain, both of them ended up sinking deeper into it, getting stuck in what I call Shoya syndrome. It's basically a psychological loop where a person focuses on what's not working in their lives in an attempt to fix it, but ironically ends up getting stuck in a perpetual cycle of despair. That sounds heavy, but before we can unpack how this happened to Shoya, it's really important to
I think, man, I'm going to be talking a lot. I think part of what this comes from is that, typically speaking, somebody in this situation likely has somebody who morally challenges their way of thinking, and they know that they should change, and it's the morally correct thing to do is change for the better, right? So they go through a cycle of wanting change and in some cases needing to change. But I've always found that change and maturity is not something you can force. It is something that happens. You wake up and you just do it. Like one day, your body, the action side of your brain just takes over and it says you're doing this today. And whatever your mental state has no bearing on that side of you in those moments. And that is where a new routine, a new habit, a new structure begins in your life. And then you wonder what the days were like when you think back on those times when you didn't have that, right? So I think it is partly due to self-destruction. I think it's also partly due to a want and desire to change, but them on an action standpoint not being connected with that mental state. So because of that disconnect is where the loop happens. You want it, you desire it, you try, you fail, you revert. And then you go in that same cycle over and over and over and over, and until the action side of that mental blockage is fixed, is achieved. then it breaks that cycle. And then all of a sudden, instead of a circle, it just becomes a straight line. And it goes right through that circle and it stops it. It cuts it off. And you now move forward. You move on.
Get one thing straight. It doesn't happen to Shoya. He actually chooses it himself. Let me explain. So I'm trained in this thing called choice theory, which was invented by a psychiatrist by the name of Dr. William Glasser. According to Dr. Glasser, emotions follow behavior and not the other way around. That means we don't just feel emotions, we generate them through the behaviors we choose. In Shoya's situation, depression isn't so much something that happens to him as much as something that he does.
Boy. Dude. I'm so excited to talk about this because this is such a common misconception with people who I'm gonna let it cook. I'm gonna let it cook and then I'll tell you my thoughts.
Dr. Glasser calls this the act of depressing or doing depressive behavior. And that makes sense because if you think about Shoya's depression before he reconnected with Shoko, we realize that his rumination is an action and avoiding people is an action too. But that doesn't mean Shoya was intentionally choosing his misery. What he was choosing directly were his actions and thoughts which led to those miserable feelings. Not because he was a masochist, but because depressing gave him better control over his life than whatever else he could have thought of in that situation. But why would anyone choose to depress if it makes them feel so miserable? Dr. Glasser identified 3 logical reasons that covers all kinds of depression, anxiety, and even phobias. The 3 reasons are to restrain anger, to signal distress, and to avoid difficult actions. Firstly, depressing helped Shoya to restrain his anger at his schoolmates and avoid lashing out at them in violence. Instead, he quietly judged them in his head and applied X's across their faces. Secondly, Shoya's antisocial behavior might have been an unconscious plea for help, but almost no one paused long enough to think twice about his reclusive behavior. In fact, this also explains why Shoya ended up asking Shoko to be friends by accident, because he was desperately seeking friendship and it just came out naturally. And lastly, throughout the entire time Shoya was depressing, he avoided taking the difficult action of reconnecting with other people. But here's where Dr. Glasser gets shockingly accurate, and you might want to take note because it might save a life. Like seriously. Dr. Glasser says, if a person who is depressing strongly suddenly stops depressing, but it doesn't look like he had a good reason to stop since nothing had changed in his life, then that person may have decided to end their life. So for people who have been depressing for a long time, therapists are always on the lookout if they are suddenly feeling better because they may now be thinking,
feeling better from nothing is like the biggest concern for a lot of different things. Because it's not like it's not to be treated like an illness, right? It's not to be medicated and forced out of somebody's system. It's something that you yourself, through psychology, need to tackle on your own, right? And the most that you can do as somebody outside of an individual who is orbiting them is recognize the signs and help steer them towards the right direction without trying to force the outcome. The minute you force the outcome, they could reclude even more. You could push them to essentially to speed up the process, to hyper accelerate, right? And if you want something that is similar to this, when somebody has given up and decided to end their life and all of a sudden they're happy, it's because there is a massive sense of relief. You can equate this to the scenario where somebody is, say they're very old, say they're 90 years old, they've been withering away. All of a sudden, for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. All of a sudden they're feeling great. Their fucking body is somehow insanely energetic. Their skin is full of life and their brain is firing at max capacity. And for those few brief hours, they're undefeated. It's a similar scenario. It is that final energetic burst before death. And it's tough. It's tough. It's tough for a lot of people to go through because if you don't understand what it is, then it gives you a false hope. Oh, they might get better. You know, it's like they'll be okay. They'll wake up. They'll walk it off, right? When in reality, it's not what it is, right? It's just that last burst of energy. It's that last little bit that the body has left before it gives up completely. And that's tough. Oh, it's tough. There's a lot of people, they don't understand it. And this is a similar situation, right? But for somebody like this, it is a wash of relief. That is where the energy comes from. Their body and their brain no longer have to run in overtime to manage all of these weird, quirky, restrictive rules that they set for themselves in their own mind in order to maintain some semblance of autonomy. When they decide this, and it is their final decision, and their intent is to make it all go away, that wash of relief releases dopamine, it releases adrenaline, it releases all these different chemicals that allow you to essentially achieve 100% capacity until it's time. And it's crazy. It's a crazy feeling. And it's unfortunately a feeling that can be repeated if you are talking to a therapist and instead of helping you deal with an issue, navigate the issue, and improve your life, they simply have you talk about the same thing over and over and over and over and over, and they bring it up over and over and over. I want you to get the fuck away from that therapist. Get the fuck away from them. That therapist is only there to sell you medication. They're only there to keep you in that fucking chair because they can farm you for money. The way that I've always told it is that a good therapist is one that has no clients. Because that means that they have steered these people toward the direction that they need to go to further better their life. And that doesn't mean that the person can't, schedule an appointment just to, fill them in and say, hey, man, my life's been going good. I got a brand new car. I just fucking put a down payment on my house. I got a beautiful baby girl on the way or something. Those are the appointments that you as a therapist should be striving for, right? So as somebody who has studied psychology, I'm looking at these people, right? And I'm seeing these therapists, like I'll see them on TikTok every once in a while. They'll put videos out and they'll talk about, or like clips of them kind of giving their reasoning for things. And it makes me sick to my stomach because it clearly shows that they don't have the client's interest in mind. And it's fucking terrible because those are people that could lead you down this type of a road and accelerate the behavior of which you would choose death over life.
Of suicide. The pain of restraining their anger has become so great that many people decide it's not worth living anymore and turn the anger towards themselves. But if we really want to understand someone who is depressing, we have to go beyond the why to the how and understand how Shoya syndrome works. In this 6-step cycle, stage 1 is the trigger event, where the person is triggered by a memory or a situation that reminds them of their
Yep.
guilt. These events are often linked to social rejection, public exposure, or reminders of personal failure. This automatically moves Shoya to the self-reflection stage where he starts to think about his guilt. Obsessive rumination takes over, and he is repeatedly reminded of his cruelty towards Shoko. Thoughts
Right.
like, "It's no use," "It's my own fault," "I haven't been punished enough," fill his mind, and he is basically
Right.
watching himself fail again and again with no forgiveness. And what was originally a single unfortunate season in his early years goes through emotional amplification in stage 3 and morphs into a catastrophic failure. This is where Shoya's thoughts really start to spiral out of control. Shame, guilt, and regret all fuse together in one overwhelming emotional state. Emotional
Right.
memory overrides factual memory, and the original event is magnified far beyond its actual impact. Shoya begins to feel like he alone ruined Shoko's life beyond redemption. And when this cognitive distortion occurs for long enough, this naturally pushes Shoya into stage 4, negative identity formation. Now things get really bad when Shoya stops thinking, "I did something wrong," and starts believing, "I am what's wrong." His identity becomes fused with moral failure. "I am damaged. I hurt people. I don't deserve happiness." Shoya
Yep.
even believed that he didn't deserve to smile when Shoko smiled at him because it would trivialize all the hurt and suffering he caused her. This negative identity paralyzed him whenever he tried to talk to Shoko, and that's also probably why he didn't pick up on Shoko's confession. Yeah, I know, a male protagonist has gotta be a bit dense to keep things interesting, but it's also pretty realistic.
Well, I think that was more so like a growth thing for her because she couldn't like properly like mouth the words and she didn't want to do it in sign language because it's a big moment, right? When you're doing a confession like that, um you definitely want to go the extra mile because it's a very important moment in your life. And the fact that she couldn't do it and he didn't understand her, granted, as dense as he is, um I think that's more so a moment for her and less of a moment for him.
Because Shoya thought of himself as a horrible person, and never in his wildest dreams could he ever imagine that the girl he bullied would ever fall for him. And a lot of his struggles we see have to do with undoing the effects of stage 5, which is avoidance and
But to be fair, I'm not discounting his point. I mean, there's several parts in the movie that he could have swapped in for that same exact fucking scenario.
isolation. This stage right here is the metaphorical anchor that drags Shoya down and keeps him stuck in the cycle. And the irony is that he chooses it himself because it offers him a sense of safety from the harsh world
Right.
out there. Eye contact, conversation, and even
Yeah, somebody like this has absolutely destroyed their self-worth. Like this is the type of person that doesn't even see them as the worm in the dirt. Like you want to talk about self-esteem, they don't even know what the fuck that means. It's a very self-destructive cycle, man. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that's like very hard to pick up on. Um, especially like nowadays. Nowadays, with like how busy people are, like pretty much every two-parent household I know of, no one stays home, right? Which is why, like, I think it's I think it's a detriment that women aren't able to be at-home mothers anymore because women are supposed to be the emotionally connected parent, right? They're and this is why um this is why they're susceptible to any like you see a video online of like a dog and it's like limping because it hurt its leg. 99% of the comments in there are going to be women because it triggers them emotionally, right? So when you have a kid that's going through emotional distress, the person who is likely to pick up on that is the mom. But if the mom is insanely busy, which if you guys watch the movie, both Shoko's mom and his own mom were incredibly busy. They're single mothers. They're doing everything they can to protect and provide for their own home with no male figure around, right? And I mean, in Shoko's mother's case, Shoko had a younger sibling, but even then, that still doesn't replace a father, right? So without the father taking that burden in order for the mother to be more at home and acutely aware of mood changes, of dialogue changes, of emotional changes in the child, to be able to raise to the father and come up with a plan to like help him navigate these type of scenarios and situations, right? Um, it's going to be tough, right? It's going to be very tough. So it's kind of like it's an unfortunate storm that is going to be very hard for somebody who doesn't know how to navigate it to get out. But it's not impossible.
Casual connection feel dangerous to Shoya, and he develops a kind of hyper-vigilance which makes people seem threatening even when they're not. He chooses the pain of loneliness and self-condemnation only because
Yep.
it feels safer and more comforting than the potential pain of further.
I was going to bring this up earlier. I'm glad I let him cook because this is exactly once you've done this for so long and you're in the cycle, you a good example of this is Machine Gun Kelly and um NF. These are two very famous examples of this, right? Definitely more so Machine Gun Kelly. You'll like NF is pretty public about um the kind of emotional state that he's been in for a long time. But Machine Gun Kelly is much more public, much more raw. Um, so he, I mean, you can add on everything. I mean, he's talked about his suicidal attempts. He's talked about his drug abuse, right? So if you want two real world famous examples that most people will probably know, it would be Machine Gun Kelly and NF. These are two very, prominent people in their field, and they are very much a good example of this exact cycle. And they both dealt with it in different ways.
Judgment, rejection, or betrayal. So instead of repairing relationships, he avoids them altogether. I think one of the reasons A Silent Voice has grown so popular is because this problem of avoidance and isolation has only grown more severe with the growing use of social media. Cancel culture and online shaming are creating modern versions of Shoya's experience. People locking themselves in self-imposed social isolation due to past mistakes. A 2021 report by the Pew Research Center on the state of online harassment found that 64% of American adults under 30 have experienced some form of online harassment, with 75% of that number having faced more severe forms of abuse, including physical threats, stalking, and sexual harassment. As they say, social
This is why, like, you as a school system, you need to be adapting to the times, right? We're not at an age anymore where you can simply pass a kid through on the bullshit courses that we take nowadays. Like, Like, why the fuck are we teaching kids how to do fucking? Why are we teaching kids music theory? Why? And granted, like that's mainly an elective in most schools, right? But like, why are we teaching them that? Why are we teaching kids calculus? Right, calculus is something that they can learn in college. Why are we teaching them that in high school? Like that's not a necessary thing, right? You need to be teaching these kids necessary things. Why is there study halls? That's another one I didn't even think about. Why the fuck is there study halls? Like, you're talking about like a fucking hour and a half of absolutely fucking nothing? What the fuck? Fuck no. They're kids. They're kids. Why are they getting a study hall break? What the fuck is this bullshit? Those are the times where you teach them about taxes. Those are the times when you teach them about propaganda, right? And what to look for, right? Your goal should be getting kids to be intelligent in every aspect, to have critical thinking skills and common sense. And the only way that you could do that is by preparing them for things that they are going to face when they leave school. And one of those courses could be online safety. It could be the do's and don'ts of online etiquette, right? Don't be fucking doxing people. Don't be harassing people. The way you maintain your life in everyday society should be how you maintain your life on the internet. But I think we got to the point to where we let these people get away with this toxic bullshit on the internet, and it has done irreparable damage to young people.
Social media never forgets, and this fear of permanent judgment that one's actions will haunt them forever is
Oh
exactly
yeah.
what we see in Shoya's case. With increased avoidance and isolation comes reinforcement of negative beliefs, and that's what we see in the final stage of the cycle, reconfirmation.
Yeah, they never let you live it down, bro. So the only person who breaks this cycle, though, unfortunately, is him. But we're about to get into that part.
There are two things happening here in this last stage that turns the Shoya syndrome into a vicious cycle. There's the lack of positive feedback and the reinforcement of a negative identity,
Yep.
both of which are two sides of the same coin. Shoya's isolation removes any chance of a genuine friend coming along to encourage him. At the same time, the silence and distance become a kind of distorted evidence that Shoya is fundamentally unlovable. This stage is both painful and perversely comforting because Shoya feels it's right and just that he is alone because of what he's done. He accepts it as his lot in life and believes there are some things in this world you just can't attain, until the next trigger event comes along to plunge him into another round of endless despair. The scary thing is that this kind of self-perpetuating despair could start in many different ways. For Shoya, it was the guilt he carried from bullying Shoko. For some
Yep.
of us, it could be a breakup with a romantic partner or being
Yep.
stuck in a job that we really hate. For
Yep.
Steve, it was the loss of his health and freedom which he felt he could never recover. As he spiraled further into depression, Steve began talking about suicide as a way to end his pain once and for all.
So, bit of a personal example. Since he's using one, I'll also use one. Changing the name of this person. We'll call them George. So, I had a friend of mine, and we were roommates for a while, and we got to the point to where being irresponsible fucking early 20-year-olds, we were just like, oh fuck, shit, we're gonna get kicked out. So, we helped each other out. We fucking got everything packed up, and I moved away, and he moved away, and he moved back with his family all the way down in Alabama. But the problem with his family is they were it was kind of this situation where they didn't really think of him as anyone important. They didn't think of him as anyone worth considering. And every single day was just another day of torture, another day of, oh, stupid idiot. What a fucking idiot, George. Oh, George the retard. And it was a constant everyday reminder. And then, we had talked for a little while. It'd probably been like, I don't know, 4 months probably. And he calls me one day. I'm in the middle of fucking work. I'm just fucking, I've been grinding, right? And he tells me that he's gonna fucking end himself. He said he has to go home every day and he just gets tortured. And he told me about, his personal situation. So I told him three things. I told him three things. I said, one, there's nothing wrong with you. I said, two, I'll allow you to kill yourself if you get a 6-pack first. Go to the gym. You have to get a 6-pack abs. 3, you have to move. You can't stay there. You have to move. That friend now calls me, I don't know, about every month or so, and they thank me for saving their life. Now, keep in mind, like, this person I've known for a long time, right? I'd fucking die for that motherfucker. And goddamn, are they a fucking retard. But the difference between me and his family is that I give him 95% of just pure fucking love, man. I got all the love in the world for him. But there's always that 5% of bullying, right? Got to keep him humble. But for his family, it was the opposite. There was no positive reinforcement. There was no like self-esteem booster at all. It was just constant degradation every single day, right? Every single day. And after enough time, you believe it. His whole family is a family of fuck ups, and they were trying to drag him into their same fuck up world. So I made him change three things. I gave him one positive reinforcement, and he took that as an example, and he started giving himself positive reinforcement, which I think is critical for somebody in this position. 2, I gave him a challenge that was not easy to achieve, so he couldn't take it the easy way out. If I would have told him to go eat a fucking box of Twinkies, you think that would have fucking helped any? No, he would have ate the box of Twinkies and hung himself. So I gave him an insanely difficult task that left him with responsibility and accountability to achieve said task and a goal, which is like the most important part, is the fact that it's a goal, it is a purpose. And then the last part was change of environment. That friend moved to Colorado. He now lives not that far away from me. I can go visit him. And they're doing great in their job. They're getting good money, right? It's fantastic. It's good to see. It's good to see them that they've become not exactly, the most responsible person, right? But they're making progress. So in those situations, I think that's a very important thing to do, right? One, do not demean them. Do not try to talk them out of their position. Start it off with a compliment. Secondly, you give them purpose. You give them something that is incredibly difficult to do, and it is not something easily achieved. Because that will give them self-worth. And the only person in the world that they didn't want to disappoint was you. That's why they called you. So you give them a purpose, you give them positivity, and you suggest that they remove themselves from the very thing that is trying to convince them that they are worth less than dirt. That's the lesson I want you guys to take away from this.
A kind of learned helplessness set in, where repeated negative trigger events made him give up and believe he was powerless to change his situation. So what could Steve and Shoya do in a situation like that? Let me know your personal experiences in the comments, but for me, I think the key to breaking out of the Shoya syndrome lies in stages 2 and 5. When someone is at stage 2, the self-reflection stage, the temptation is to ruminate about past mistakes. The problem is, rumination tricks us into thinking we are solving a problem when it's actually trapping us in guilt. So instead of focusing on the past, Dr. Glasser suggests we take ownership of.
See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? You give them purpose. Something that is not easy to achieve. That you have to actually gain self-worth in order to achieve. That's why the 6-pack is a really good one.
Our present by focusing on what we can control now. Real change takes action, so instead of feeling guilty about the past or anxious about the future, we should ask, what can I do right now? In therapy, Dr. Glasser might ask, what do you want and what are you doing to get it? The goal is not confession or guilt, but action and reconnection with others. We see this in Thor in Avengers Endgame, where he is initially wallowing in self-blame for his failure to stop Thanos, and it isn't until Professor Hulk and Rocket pay him a visit that Thor decides to channel his guilt into more meaningful action. Thor doesn't erase his past mistakes, because that's not how time travel works, but he makes peace with them by making better choices in the present. For Shoya, it was Shoko who gave him the hope to live on. This is why it's so important for people stuck in the avoidance and isolation stage to get out there and reconnect with people who can offer them hope and encouragement.
See what I'm saying? The reason that they called you is because you were the only person that they didn't want to disappoint. When they are on the edge, they're going to think about the person that they care the most. And your opinion, you responding to them the wrong way, is the make it or break it to that situation. But I don't want you to blame yourself, because there are situations that, no matter what you say, it's the final. I want you to think of it as the final cry for help, because there are people who, you could do your best, but it's unfortunate, right? But for many of them, 95% of them, I would even argue 99% of them, it is the final cry for help, the last final words, the last beacon that they're looking for. So remember this video, remember what I said, because everything here has reflected what I have given you, right? This is my advice. My advice. Give them purpose. Say something positive. Suggest a change of environment. And if you're well off enough, you can help facilitate this And you can say, hey, I got a spare bedroom, man. You just want to come crash for a few days? You just want to come hang out? Something, anything. You need to get them out of that environment. Reconnect them to a world of which they have already thrown out because they feel they are unworthy of being in it. It's so, so, so important, right? Positivity, purpose, environment. Key things. Key things to think about. So if you ever get that call, you got to give them those, right? Do not demean them. Do not yell at them. Do not fucking try to talk them down from their position, right? Just give them those 3 things. I know if they call you and they say, man, I'm such a piece of shit, dude. I shouldn't be on this planet, bro. I'm going to fucking kill myself. You say, no, you are worthy. You're loved. I love you. I appreciate you. Right? And then you say, okay, you're going to kill yourself. Fine. But you have to get a 6-pack abs. 6-pack abs. You have to go to the fucking gym every single day. And you have to get a 6-pack. And then I'll allow you to kill yourself. You've given them purpose. You've given them positivity. And then you say, hey, man, listen, where you're at doesn't seem like it's great for you. Why don't you move? Why don't you move here? It's a lot cheaper than where you're at now. It's going to be much easier for you to just simply live your life, right? I'm not that far away. I come see you. We can come hang out. You can come hang out. I come see you. We can chill. Right? A change of environment. I knew that him being with his family was the worst thing for him. But I didn't have the means to just move him up here and have him live with me. But I put it in his head that if he was here and he was close, I'll come over. I'll come hang out. Chill like the good old days, And I think that's so, so, so important. And going through that journey is usually enough for them to figure out how to break that cycle. Because you have to think of it as going 90% of the way, like helping them get 90% of the way. And then the 10%, that final 10% that fully breaks the cycle, that they never even think about, they look back on it and they're like, what the fuck was I thinking? That final 10% is all them. You can help them get to the point, but to fully break through that cycle, that's on them. They have to do it. You are simply there as the guardrails to kind of keep them from doing the thing that will hurt everyone they ever knew. That's it. That's what it comes down to.
As Shoya tells Tomohiro in chapter 33, seeing Nishimiya again made me want to change. And with the support of his wife and family, my friend Steve also decided to put rumination aside and take positive action. He started looking for alternative treatments and accepted help from his family to try out new medications.
Absolutely.
He even took up new hobbies, and eventually, Steve enjoyed his new hobby so much that he decided to turn his newfound passion into a business where he now brings joy to others by bringing people together in a thriving community of hobby enthusiasts.
And I guarantee you, him in this video and other people around him that gave him positivity, he eventually was able to adjust his mindset. And when he adjusted his mindset, he found a purpose. And that hobby of his got him out of his environment. His environment could be something as simple as being depressed in his fucking bedroom. But he could come out to an office and hop on and record a video. And that's enough purpose to alter his mindset to think differently. Because now his body's kicking in and the body's saying no. Physically, his body is saying, no, you can't die yet. You got stuff to do. Right?
And that's the beautiful irony of A Silent Voice, a film where people are not only the greatest source of pain, but also the greatest source of joy. Something that Shoya discovers as he reconnects with his former classmates is that healing itself isn't a reward, but
Bro, when the X's came off, oh, brother, when the X's came off, my whole body, my hair was standing on end. I had goosebumps, man. This fucking movie destroyed me emotionally. Absolutely destroyed me. It was nuts. And I have never, ever captured this feeling from any other form of media ever. No other animes, no other fucking TV shows, no movies, no fucking nothing on YouTube, nothing. And I've watched so many like incredibly heavy things that would break any person. And this is the only one that absolutely broke down any semblance of structure I had in my brain. I mean, it just fucking destroyed me. And I think in a way, it was also very impactful for me to change as a person. Because it's one of those things like I'll never not see this movie in the absolute 10 out of fucking no. That's not even right. Billion out of 10 rating that it is for me.
a choice. His
On a
turning point
personal
came
level.
not when he was forgiven, but when he chose to stop hiding and start living. By taking small, deliberate actions, Shoya
Yep.
realized that true growth comes from accepting responsibility for personal change while refusing to
Yep.
be imprisoned by guilt.
Fucking
Shoya
W.
reminds us that we cannot erase the past. All the bad stuff we've done or tragedies that befell us will always live with us. And some problems will continue to haunt us even as new problems show up along the way. Even till the end of the movie and the manga, some people were still judging Shoya and the group of friends still had their differences. But
Yep.
that didn't matter to Shoya anymore because he realized that there are some things you just can't change. I know that all too well. I think it's the time you spend trying to change that's more important. And before you know it, the Shoya syndrome will be a thing of the past as well. This video is part of my running anthology called Kill Annie in My Heart, so if you've enjoyed this one, then you're gonna love this one right here.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie, it's one of the best videos I've seen in a long time. Bro, go, hey, 4K? Go get this man some subs, bro. All the likes, all the subs, share it, comment, everything. Man, what an absolutely beautiful and stunning video. A big shout out to you, my friend. I hope you all the best in gaining even more success from this channel and the messages it represents. Yeah. What an absolutely beautiful and stunning video. A big shout out to you, my friend. I hope you all the best in gaining even more success from this channel and the messages it represents. Fuck. This is fucking, oh my God, this is one of the best YouTube videos I've seen in a long time. It's like watching a fucking movie, literally. Oh man, that's awesome. That's going to be it for this video, though. I mean, wow. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys want me to check out some more anime affliction. And if you've made it 3 hours in, we're gonna have to leave the rest of these for another day. I'm not gonna keep doing these freaking 3 hour fucking long ass videos. Um, so yeah, we're gonna go ahead and end it on this. Absolutely stunning. Um, yeah, yeah. Shout out to Anime Affliction. Go give them all the love, man. Like, subscribe, comment on this video as well. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.